I'm gonna start it out. Should I use the Storyhole? Should I say Storyhole?
Yeah.
We still don't have a slogan thing.
We
but
don't.
do
We can
for it.
still make an intro, I
Welcome
guess.
to Storyhole. Cram it up your hole.
Yeah. I like that. We'll give that a spin. Hi, welcome to Storyhole. Cram it up your hole. I'm Roger.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Joey.
Hey guys, what are your opinions of Nintendo games?
Ugh.
I used to love them.
Yeah, like classic Nintendo games.
Yeah.
I only play Dreamcast.
Yeah,
SNES is got to be like one of the best consoles ever made.
Yeah.
I would agree. SNES is my favorite console of all time. I feel like it came out at the perfect time for people our age.
Yeah.
But honestly, I feel pretty much equal excitement for most of the Nintendo consoles.
Yeah,
I have like such a weird ingrained love for Nintendo games.
me too.
From like the OG NES and then like the Nintendo 64, like rock my world.
I thought it'd be interesting to talk about Nintendo games, especially classic Nintendo games, the ones from a long time ago that ended up spawning really long series, because a lot of them have really interesting stories, but I feel like you don't really get to see the story that much because they're separated into, a bunch of small chunks of dialogue over a dozen different games, or, maybe the story's told. And do you guys remember the manuals that would come in?
Yeah. That's what I was about to say. You had to read the manual to get the story.
And there'd be a paragraph or two in the beginning of the manual that would tell a part of the lore behind the game. You don't really get to see that as a complete story, but the stories that are behind a lot of those original games are pretty interesting. So I thought it might be cool today to talk about one of those games, Castlevania. Did you guys play Castlevania?
As an adult, actually, I never played it when I was a kid.
Yeah,
but I know plenty about it. Well, I don't know plenty.
What do you know?
I know that you're a guy with a whip and you run around the castle and the song's really cool. And also there's like a big hunk of ham or something, right? When you like hit the right wall,
you can break a brick and there's a turkey inside.
Yeah.
You mentioned the song. Can you give us a little taste of that song, Joey?
Yeah. Dun 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 dun. Yeah,
It's a good song.
It's very good.
That's that song.
Cool. So do you guys want to hear the lore behind Castlevania?
Roger, you didn't ask me about my Castlevania experience.
Kev, tell me about your Castlevania experience.
I got into it with Game Boy Advance.
Oh, really?
It's the first time I did it. It was the first game I got with Game Boy Advance, and it was incredible.
Was that Castlevania 3?
I think it was the one where Simon was the main guy.
What was the sound card like on the Game Boy Advance?
Da 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 da.
There's a lot of passion in the Game Boy Advance.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tell the story of where all that stuff comes from, where all the Castlevania lore originates, and this goes beyond just the Nintendo games. There was PlayStation games and a bunch of other stuff.
Van Helsing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of it is based on not so much like Van Helsing and like fictional like Monster World stuff, but a lot of it is connected to actual historical like Gothic Europe and whatnot. So it's pretty interesting.
Oh, cool.
So we're gonna start the story in 1094 AD, which is in real life, in the real world, the Gothic period in medieval Europe. So think big tall cathedrals and stained glass windows and Christianity and superstition and witchcraft and stuff like that in the real world.
So think like Castlevania then.
Yeah, just think Castlevania basically. And then somewhere in Eastern Europe, there's an old man named Walter Bernard, and Bernard is a vampire. He's been alive for centuries, and he's super bored with his immortality.
I could see this coming. Do you know how?
How?
He has 2 first names.
Yeah, 2 first names are always vampires.
They have to be.
Yep. So in an effort to kind of try to find a hobby to make him feel, excited and youthful again.
Celine Dion.
Yeah, he gets really...
I was trying to think of other names too for that first name.
But it's kind of more of a Celine Dion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
I mean,
Roger.
she hasn't aged a day, right?
That's true.
It's very likely
doing
that
a song for
Celine
the new
Dion
Deadpool.
is a vampire. I think we can all agree.
Yes.
And a very talented woman.
And a very, very talented Well, she spent all those years.
That's true. That's not really fair. I would be a very good singer if I was immortal too.
Yeah.
You're still a great singer, though. Don't even worry about it.
Yeah. Hey, Joey, can you give us a little taste of your favorite Celine Dion song?
Yeah, goes like this. That's actually the Castlevania song in rendered in a Celine Dion-esque voice.
That's very good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So Bernard, the old vampire, his hobby that he starts is kidnapping girlfriends.
Fuck.
He finds young, strong, brave hunks, and he takes their girlfriends, and then he just sits and waits for the boyfriend to come track him down, so he can fight him to the death. And it gives him something to live for.
That's the most intense guy ever.
Yeah.
He's truly Mr. Steal Your Girl and fight.
Yeah, totally.
This isn't real life, right? This is Castlevania.
This is in the fictional world of
Okay.
Castlevania, as far as I know. Yeah.
Man, what a motivated villain. That's so much more interesting than I.
Yeah, I like that though. He's just like, I've been alive for centuries. I'm ancient. I'm just sitting up here in this castle.
He's the mom and pop shop of villainy.
Yeah.
Villainy, yeah. Because he's just
Yeah.
like, oh, I'll just do it local. I don't need to have a big reputation. I'll get this one guy.
Yeah, he's not trying
Phil,
to
from
conquer the
across the
world. Yeah. So he's been doing this for years, and it's been working out really well for him. And then he steals this girl. Her name is Sarah, and it turns out that Sarah is the girlfriend of this a young baron in a country called Wallachia. And Wallachia is a real place. That is where Dracula, the actual like historical Vlad Dracula, is from. So he steals like the girlfriend of a baron of Wallachia. It's a man named Leon Belmont. And if you play the Castlevania games, you know that pretty much every Castlevania game centers around the story of a Belmont, right? It's not always the same Belmont, but it's somebody in the Belmont family. So this is basically the first Belmont. And he used to be a knight. He's a really good fighter. He's super brave. And now he's a baron, so he's kind of rich and powerful. But Bernard stole his girlfriend, and what he decides he's going to do is hunt down whoever took her and get her back. But he doesn't know who Bernard is. He doesn't know that he's the one that took her. He doesn't know that Bernard's a vampire. He doesn't even really know that vampires are a real thing. It's not necessarily common knowledge in the world. But he has a friend that does know about that stuff. It's a man by the name of Matthias, and Matthias was a knight with Leon Belmont when they were younger, and they were like best friends. And Matthias is also super brave and a great tactician. And now that they're older, a little bit older, they're still best friends. And Matthias actually comes from a family that's explored like dark secrets of black magic and stuff. So he has all these tomes in his library of like occult history and everything. So Matthias actually knows a little bit about Bernard and the fact that there are vampires in the world, and he kind of like looks at the situation and figures out that maybe that's the situation that's happening here. Maybe a vampire has taken his girlfriend.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How do you think, I mean, I can't expect any of us to actually know this, but how do you think he sniffed that out with the amount of information he had?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Oh, so tell me about this guy that's been macking on your girl. Does he have like a really tall collar and a widow's peak for a haircut?
Yeah.
Like,
did you get a look at his teeth? But we'll get to that. Actually, that's part of the story.
Oh,
okay, sorry.
No, that's good. And actually, a cool historical fact, Matthias Cronquist is the guy's name in the game, and it's based off of Matthias Corvinus, who was a 15th century Hungarian king and was actually one of the commanders that hired Vlad Dracula to be a general in his army when he was fighting the Ottoman Empire. So in real life history, Matthias and the actual Dracula knew each other, and they were like basically the source of Dracula's power as a politician came from Matthias. So cool real world connection.
I love how Nintendo does that in their stories. Like, if we ever talk about Mega Man, there's things in that too, where the names they pick.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The main guy's name, the main doctor, Dr. Light, and Dr. Wily, their names are based on real life scientists. Then their perspective from Japan paints one as evil and the other is not.
Really?
So
yeah, there's a lot of names in Castlevania that are drawn directly from actual Eastern European history and Hungarian kings, and yeah,
That's true for Mario too.
what's the origin of Mario's name?
Mario?
Well, because Mario is one of the most famous Nintendo Marios, which is why his last name is Mario.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know Yoshi is actually Japanese for
Mario.
Mario? Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible. The depth is incredible.
Yeah.
So in Castlevania,
can we get a summary? So basically, what's the Belmont? What's Belmont's name?
Leon.
Leon had his girl taken. Doesn't know why. Mateo says it's probably going to be a vampire, and then here's how to go about fixing that. That's all we've got so far?
Yeah. Basically, all we have so far is Leon Belmont has lost his girlfriend. His best friend, Matthias, is like, I think I can probably help you find who it is. I bet she was taken by a vampire.
Okay.
So they decide that they're going to go out on the quest and try to get her back. Now, Matthias is kind of a lonely guy. He was married, but his wife got sick and died a couple years before this while Matthias was off fighting in the Crusades. So while Matthias was out like trying to get the Holy Land back for Christianity, his wife died. And ever since then, he's been just kind of distraught and lonely and mopey. So he feels like this might be a good opportunity to get out and maybe meet some new people, you know? So they both quit their jobs. In order to go out on this quest, Leon's going to have to give up his title as Baron. So he's not really going to be able to be there for the people of Wallachia. So he has to kind of like sacrifice his life, more or less, and his status to go out and try to find Sarah. So they do that and they set out on their journey, which is kind of a cool foreshadowing because in future games and pretty much every game from here on out, when you're a different Belmont in the Belmont family tree, you're kind of like a penniless drifter. And that's because of right now. That's because Leon had to give up his status and his fortune to go be basically like a nomadic vampire hunter. And everybody else in his family tree ever since then kind of follows in suit, which I think is kind of cool.
I like that point that you made where it was like giving up his life. It's even like more than that because status is everything back then, I feel like. So it's more than just sacrificing your life. It's sacrificing like your progeny, your legend.
It's
like
his
everything.
Like familial name. Like
Erase
the Belmont
yourself.
family name would have been like an established old money name, and they all would have been comfortable and successful for generations. But he had to give that up.
But also the idea of him, like, you know, this is a fresh idea. Oh, like a vampire is real. I'm not a vampire hunter. I'm a one guy fighter right now. And
he is.
That must have been true love for him to do that.
He is. Yeah, he's going to go fight not vampires, but a specific vampire. Yeah.
Maybe he thought there was more money in the title Vampire Hunter, and he just picked wrong.
No, totally. Yeah, he might have been led astray.
Maybe his girlfriend was from an even more wealthy family. So if he got his girlfriend back and married her, then
that's right. Yeah,
that's true.
Money. It was a gamble, really.
They don't specifically address that, but I think we can safely assume that might be the case.
It must be.
So they set out, and they're going to go track down the old vampire pervert Bernard. So they find him. He's also in Wallachia, in the middle of a dark, spooky forest. He's got this little den, this little vampire's den where he takes his girls. And as they're going into the spooky forest to go confront him, they're stopped by an old man in a little hut. And he's an old alchemist. And he's just been hanging out there because his daughter was stolen by Bernard. But he's an old man, so he can't really go fight him himself. But he's bitter, you know, he's angry and he wants somebody to go fight him. So he's just been kind of hanging out there and making tools, making weapons that maybe a braver, younger adventurer can use to go fight Bernard. And
that's great.
Yeah,
that's so
he's
cool.
just sitting there making alchemical weapons to fight like creatures of the night.
I can't fight this guy, but what can I do? I can arm the people who are going to fight him. That's such a cool idea.
I'm going to spend my life it's like a crow. You know, if a crow gets killed, then its mate will like stop and pester whoever killed the crow for the rest of his life.
Is that true?
That's true. Yeah. So like if a dog kills a crow, then the mate of the crow will stay there and try to attack the dog forever.
Forever?
Forever. Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Leon and Matthias go visit this man, and the alchemist gives Leon a whip. And he says that the whip is empowered with alchemy, so it's given the power to kill creatures of the night, any kind of dark, godless creature. So he takes the whip, and Matthias stays behind. Leon says, like, you know, this is my fight. So he charges into the middle of the forest to go confront Bernard. And he's doing a great job. You know, he's whipping bats and whipping skeletons, and you know, just getting them riding their buns and killing everybody. He fights all the way into the forest and finds the old vampire Bernard, who's just kind of sitting there, all giddy and excited, with Sarah on the ground.
In a forest? Not a castle, just
they don't specifically say it, but I like to envision that he's just sitting in the forest, just on a tree
His
stump.
favorite stump.
Yeah, yeah. But in all likelihood, he's probably in a castle. Yeah, so he's just sitting there, and Leon's girlfriend Sarah is just kind of laid out on the ground right in front of him. And Leon sees the scene and gets super angry, and he takes his whip and whips Bernard straight in the face, and it doesn't do anything. Bernard is immune to the whip. It doesn't hurt him in any way. And Bernard's just sitting there laughing while Leon's whipping away. And Leon realizes that he's in big trouble, so he just runs away. He just grabs Sarah, throws her over his shoulder, and just makes a run for it. And he makes it out of the forest. He makes it back to the old alchemist's hut at the edge of the woods, and he's safe. For whatever reason, Bernard doesn't really track him down. He just lets it happen. So now Leon's back with Matthias and with the alchemist. He's got his girlfriend Sarah there, but Sarah's pretty messed up. She's like pretty much comatose. She's like barely aware of what's happening around her, and she just looks terrible.
She's been sleeping on the floor,
She's been sleeping on the floor, on the ground for weeks.
That's not good sleep.
But the alchemist tells Leon that by the looks of it, she's probably being turned into a vampire. Bernard let her go. He let Leon take her because he had already started the process for Sarah to be turned. So she's going to become a vampire and then start killing people too. So he purposefully let her go so that she would be reintroduced into society and start causing all kinds of problems back wherever they take her. Now they're in a pickle, right? They have he has the love of his life back, but she's going to become a monster, and he doesn't really know what to do about that. So the old alchemist gives him a potential solution. He says the whip didn't hurt Bernard because the whip isn't at its true power yet. It needs to have its true power awakened. And the only way that it can be awakened, the only way to trigger the alchemy inside of the whip is if a tortured soul willingly sacrifices itself and lets the whip consume it. So Sarah, who's only barely aware of what's happening, hears that, and she pleads with Leon to let her soul be the one. Now that her soul is corrupted because she's turning into a vampire, she wants to die, and she wants her soul to be eaten by the whip to empower it enough that he can go back and kill Bernard. But that's
a pretty bad old man.
You think so?
That old man, he could have given that information from the get-go, I feel like.
Yeah, he kind of set him up to fail to some degree, huh?
He's getting him. That's a foot in the door salesman tactic.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, I'm thinking if I was Leon, I'm not gonna take my girlfriend's soul. There's probably way better souls out there.
She's barely tortured.
But imagine finding a soul that's corrupted. It has to be tortured, and it has to willingly give itself up. That's probably pretty hard to find, right?
Maybe, but not if you're Leon.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
Have you seen that guy?
He's such a hunk. It's a pretty serious thing, though, because it's not like she just dies and her soul disappears. Her soul will never be at peace. It'll always be tortured inside of the whip for eternity. So it's a pretty big commitment. Leon definitely doesn't want to do it, but Sarah pleads with him, and eventually he concedes. And they do the ritual. They kill Sarah, and her soul is consumed by the whip. And the whip that you have throughout every Castlevania game is that whip. The whip that you're using is the whip that has the tortured soul of Leon's girlfriend inside of it, which is a pretty cool thing, right?
Yeah, this was just really sad. Plus, if, of all weapons, that's the most wily weapon, and she's probably going ah, just being flung around. Totally. She didn't really think about what she signed up for. That's a roller coaster.
Uh-huh. Yeah. If you were in a weapon, you definitely want to be in a sword, not a nunchuck. That would be very, very disorienting, huh?
Well, it depends if what part of me is the nunchuck. If it's my elbow, that's pretty.
I think your whole being is inside that nunchuck.
Well, I'm broken in what parts though? Bottom half and top half?
Yeah. It's just from the waist down and from the waist up.
That would pretty suck.
Yeah.
When they're swinging your legs and your hips around, that's okay. But when they swing that top half, oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not a good option.
But so now Leon has the whip, and he's furious because he lost Sarah, right? It's Bernard's fault. Now Sarah's dead. So just totally enraged, and charges back into the forest, confronts Bernard, and just starts whipping him all over the place. And it's just fucking Bernard up, He's he's whipping whipping his clothes off. Bernard is just a naked old man on the ground, and Leon just delivers like the killing blow and just destroys him. And as he dies, death appears, like the actual like personification of death. Like the Grim Reaper appears to take his soul. And right as the Grim Reaper, right as death pulls the soul out of Bernard, Matthias appears. Matthias comes out from the edge of the forest. And he's been there the whole time, just kind of creeping and standing on the sidelines and waiting. And Death turns around and he hands Bernard's soul to Matthias.
Oh no.
And Matthias pulls out a red stone, and the red stone consumes the old vampire's soul. And Matthias transforms, and he's filled with the vampire's power. And Matthias reveals that through his family's library of occult dark magics, he found out a way that you can steal a vampire's soul and absorb it. And through that ritual, you're filled with like tons of dark powers. And he's going to use those immense powers because he's really mad. He's decided that it was very unfair that while he was out fighting in the Crusades, that God took his wife, right? And the Crusades were like an attempt to go reconquer the Holy Land in the name of God. So while Matthias is out doing that in the name of God, God killed his wife. So Matthias, for the last, half a dozen years, has just been like stewing on that and so angry at God for taking his wife. So he's renounced God, and he's decided that what he's going to do is figure out a way to just taunt God forever. Kind of like a crow, basically God killed his mate. So now he wants to figure out a way that he can just taunt God and make fun of him and deny him and just break all of his rules for as long as he can. And the way that he can do that is by becoming a vampire, right? Because he'll become immortal. He can turn his back on God, and he can like make a mockery of all the rules of mankind that God has like imposed on man.
That rules. That's really cool.
So the whole thing was set up. Matthias went to Bernard and he's like, hey, I got a hot tip for you. I know you like stealing girlfriends. This girlfriend is really good. Her boyfriend is a real big hunk. It'll be a perfect fight for you. So that's the reason why Bernard tracked down Sarah in the first place. And that's the reason why Matthias knew about, it's probably a vampire. It's probably this old guy Bernard that lives here. I'll help you go find him. The whole thing was a plan from like step one for Matthias to go have Leon kill Bernard. Because, Matthias knew that he couldn't kill Bernard by himself. He needed somebody hunky like Leon to do it. And that was his plan. And it all worked. So he's standing there and he's filled with the vampiric powers, and he's like kind of transforming, leaving his kind of mortal figure behind, and he transforms into Dracula. The Dracula that you fight in every Castlevania game is Matthias. Dracula is his like monster name, whereas Matthias was his human name.
I'll tell you two things I like about Matthias. Number one, in terms of his name, it's pretty much both of my brothers' names put together into one name.
Matt and Sam?
Yeah. Because Matt, and then there's the AS part.
Yeah.
Because that's like Sam but backwards.
That's true.
Palindrome.
And then the other thing I like is that if you're really tracking it back to like how he set this up, that's a long con, because he probably even set those two up to date.
Yeah, perhaps.
Yeah.
Because that's Johnny Football Hero and the leader of the cheerleader squad.
Totally.
And he knew like this is the perfect concoction. This is the perfect storm of a hot-headed, beefy hunkster and a woman of his dreams who has everything. And in her wake, everybody else looks like a garbage.
Yep, it's true.
Yep. Let's get them together.
It's a pretty incredible story, huh?
Yeah. Put her in a whip.
Put that girl in a whip.
She's the Patty Mayonnaise of girls.
She's the Patty Mayonnaise.
Yeah, can we reframe this whole thing in Doug?
Yeah, let's put it in.
So Leon Belmont is definitely Doug, right? And Sarah is Patty Mayonnaise. Mm-hmm. And then I guess
Matthias is you would think pork chop. Nope. Mr. Fink.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And then Bernard is probably Roger, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, Mr. Fink.
Yeah.
You know what's good about Doug is all the sound effects are just them like making noises with their mouth.
Yeah.
Bing bong. It's like a bunch of that. Come on, Doug, guys. Actually, I like that. Sounds.
Yeah.
God,
Yeah,
that I like those sound effects.
Yeah, me too.
That's right up your alley.
What's that supposed to mean?
Banging on a trash can, drumming on a streetlight.
Yeah. Some little voice is calling me right now, and it's Kevin's voice.
I lost the thread of that joke, guys.
Oh, that's the song.
Is that the theme song?
And It's the Beats.
It's the Beats.
Oh,
the Beats
the
was
Beats.
the fictional band.
Right.
That was their hit.
Yeah, Killer Tofu, right?
They did Killer
Killer
Tofu.
Tofu,
And they also
yeah.
did the was it Drummond or it must be Drummond. I think it was Strummin', but
Strummin',
on a trash
maybe?
can. Oh, it's Strummin' on a street light. Yeah, there it is. Banging on a trash can, strumming on a street light.
Yeah.
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 So they,
So, get back to the story. At this point, yeah, Dracula's there. Leon's standing there. Death is still kind of hanging out over Bernard's dead body. And Leon's super pissed. Dracula has no beef with Leon, though. I mean, Dracula and Matthias are the same person, right? So Matthias still likes Leon. He's like, hey, sorry, I just, this was part of my plan. I needed to have this happen. And Matthias / Dracula actually invites Leon Belmont, saying like, do you want to join me? You know, we can both have this power. Let's do this together. You know the same suffering that I know because your girlfriend just died. I know what that feels like because my wife died, you know, so let's do this together. And Leon's like, no, like
Hold
my
on.
wife died because
Hold
of
on,
you.
Matthias.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yeah,
right?
you fucked this up,
you
guy.
turned your
Come
back on
on.
God because God took your wife,
Uh-huh.
and now you're like, did the same thing, and you're looking to
A
me.
lot of people did
like,
a lot of
fuck
things.
off.
Yeah. So Leon's super
cool.
mad. He was like, no, he just refuses. So yeah.
just pouts.
So Dracula / Matthias turns to Death and he says, all right, he's all yours then. And just walks out of the forest, and Death attacks Leon Belmont. So they fight, and Leon still has the super whip. So he's able to defeat Death and drive Death away. And when Death is defeated, he tells him to deliver a message to Matthias / Dracula. He says, next time you see Dracula, tell him that as long as he lives, Leon's going to hunt him. And when Leon dies, his son is going to hunt him, and his son's son, and his son's son's son. Everyone in the whole family line for the rest of eternity is always going to hunt him down for what he's done to Sarah. So for the rest of his unnatural life, he'll never be at peace. He'll never be comfortable because somebody from the Belmont family is always going to be hunting him, just waiting to destroy him. Dracula doesn't really seem to get aggressive with the Belmonts. I don't think he really has any beef with the Belmonts. You know, like Leon was his best friend. I think he probably feels maybe even a little guilty that he had to trick Belmont into such a terrible situation in order to get what he needed. But Dracula never really goes out of his way to hunt a Belmont. It's really the opposite. It's always the Belmonts going out of their way to hunt Dracula, and Dracula is really just trying to stay out of the whole thing. After that night, after Matthias becomes Dracula, and after Leon swears that, you know, he's going to hunt him down for all of eternity, that's it. Dracula disappears. Leon's never able to find him again. Leon ends up meeting some other girl and having babies with her, and he still sticks to his vow. He's still like willing to fight Dracula if he ever shows his face again, but he doesn't. It never happens. Like they never cross paths again. We're gonna jump like 400 years into the future now, and there's been, you know, a handful of generations of different Belmonts in that time.
At least 3.
And in that, yeah, at least 3. Dracula's just been kind of hanging out and trying to build a really cool castle. He's like spending all of his time and effort trying to build the coolest castle he can, and he names it after his 2 favorite things, which are castles and Transylvania. So he calls it Castlevania. That's the name of his castle, and he imbues it with the power that it can transport instantly anywhere. And the whole reason that he does that is because he knows that the Belmonts are always going to be hunting him. He believes that Leon's vow is gonna hold true, so he's going to make a castle that just moves around all the time, so that the Belmonts will never find him.
That's a pretty good plan.
Yeah, he's not trying to find the Belmonts. He doesn't want to kill the Belmonts. He just wants to stay out of it. He just wants to live forever and mock God and turn his back on Christianity. And that's it.
Do you think that maybe he got the whole vampire syndrome where it was like, I've been around forever, I'm kind of bored, I just want a hunky guy to hunt me down?
But he's not a hunter, right? He's not this thing is that he doesn't want to like go out of his way to go kill a Belmont.
He's never killed anybody.
Eventually he's going to get down the same thought process, right? Is the guy on the stump?
That's true. He really doesn't like it, though. You would think he would, but that's not his thing. He doesn't like hunks hunting him down.
Oh, he
I
doesn't
think it
like
takes
that?
3,000 years for a vampire to get so bored that they're starting to look for other things to do.
I mean, honestly, put yourself in his shoes. would it only take 400 years for you to get so bored that you start kidnapping girlfriends?
No, man. I would be playing violins. I would be visiting the Bahamas.
Yeah.
You know what? I would come up with wacky plans. So if a Bahamut ever came to me, I would just make sound effects and I would
Home Alone
Yeah,
him.
Home Alone him. I know what I would do is I would throw a dummy at him like Jazzy Jeff, and getting thrown out of the house, and then it would make him think that he killed me, and then it would just pop back up and be like, dude, that was a prank, got ya.
Yeah, it'd probably work.
I think it would. If I were a vampire, it'd probably take like 50 years. And then
50?
Oh no. How old are you
Kevin,
now,
how old are you
Kev?
right now? You're like 30, 31? You're 30? So by the time you turn
30,
80, you're going to start kidnapping girlfriends?
Well, no, 50.
Well,
By the
no,
time he's 50, he's
50.
gonna start.
Oh, so shit, you only got 20 more years.
Is that where my girlfriends went?
Wait, where's my girlfriend?
come get me, hunks.
In the meantime, though,
I gotta get
I'm sorry.
It was a bad joke about just get.
No, go for it. Let's put it in there.
Gotta get a whip.
Yeah.
I don't want that as my weapon, actually, Kevin. I'm gonna fight you with a hammer instead, okay?
That's fine.
We should take this up with the viewers. Joey and I have had a long-standing debate about what weapon would beat what. So the situation is Joey has a hammer, but not like a battle hammer. He has like a household Home Depot hammer. And I have like a big metal shield, like I don't know, like a knight would have. And his theory is that he's so fast with that hammer, he could get it around the shield and just get me in the head, and I would die. My theory.
Even if it hit you anywhere, I'm gonna sell my point. Don't tell me I'm good.
Wait.
Okay.
So
All
set
right.
it up and then rebuke.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
So
Roger, finish yours.
Okay.
I'll be moderator.
all right, and then my theory is that with a shield, like the chances of him getting around that shield with a hammer are very slim. He's just going to bounce that hammer off the shield, and all it takes is once or twice he's going to be off balance. I could just smash him with the shield.
Is that it, Roger?
okay.
That's it. Yeah, that's
All
my
right,
case.
Joey, your side.
Okay, my turn. Ready? That shield is so much bigger and heavier that he's gonna get so worn out having to heft that thing around, because the shield is really pretty much mounted to one arm, or you can kind of pick it up with two if you need to. Whereas I just am using a really light hammer. All I really have to do is hit him once anywhere with that hammer to inflict pretty crazy pain. If he's using the shield as an offensive, like a weapon, you're gonna have to like butt into me. But I still think I'm too fast with my little hammer and all that stuff. I think he's gonna get worn out first. So all I really have to do is go around him and start hitting him with the hammer. And at very best, you smack me real hard once, and then you're gonna just body slam me with the shield. I don't think that's gonna kill me. I
think I would just rush you.
You could try. I could just run away faster because you have a shield and I have a hammer. And then you're gonna get worn out because you're carrying a shield rushing me, and I'll be good. I'll recoup quicker than you.
Yeah, Roger, how's your blood less than this? Because
It's high.
Mine's low.
Yeah.
Mine's real low. And my blood sugar. My blood sugar's low. I've got a Gatorade also. We didn't finish. I have a Gatorade and a hammer.
both are very important factors. Yes.
Okay. Well, Kevin, who wins? Can you tell us? Who
No,
wins,
I'm not
please?
gonna do it. It's up to.
Oh, don't mother us
people.
like that.
We could take it, Kevin. Give us the cold, hard truth.
Who wins? Who wins?
I'm gonna go. How big is your shield, Roger?
It's big enough.
All right. Well, enough is enough, and Roger, you kill Joey.
Sorry, Joey. Told you. Tried to warn you.
I was already dead inside.
I would do not a scimitar. Scimitars are really cool though. Curved swords are really cool. That might be it actually.
Is there any advantage to the curved sword, or it
I
just
think
looks cool?
there is. I don't really know.
If it's curving forward, because it gets there faster. But if it's curving backward, then a normal sword will get there first.
Yeah.
I don't know why did they design the scimitar. Next time on Storyhole.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that one.
It's when you need to fight, but you also need to cut your grass at the same time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's the sickle. That's what Death's job is on his off time. Back to the story.
There you
Death.
go. Wrap it around.
Yeah, let's get back. Let's jump back into those Belmonts. So it's been 400 years. Dracula's just been building his cool castle and jumping around Europe. And the Belmonts, in the meantime, it's been pretty hard to be a Belmont. They've lost their family title. They've lost their family fortune. Every generation has just been kind of just like wandering around Wallachia, just trying to find a vampire. They're always just like listening out for rumors of a vampire so they can hopefully track down Dracula and make good on Leon's vow. But it hasn't been easy. They haven't really had any opportunity to find Dracula. Their paths haven't crossed or anything, and in fact, they just recently have been kicked out of Wallachia. They got exiled by the church, by the Eastern Orthodox Church, the actual eastern half of Christianity. They accuse them of being in league with the devil and dealing with black magic, because even though the Belmonts are trying to fight the enemies of God, even though they're trying to beat a man who's turned his back on God, the church doesn't really get that. All they see is that they're always hunting for dark things, and they have a whip that's been passed down for generations that has the tortured soul of a girl in it, which is pretty dark stuff, right?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So the church just kind of views them as heretics, and they're like, you guys are participating in witchcraft and devilry, and if we catch you in Wallachia, we'll burn you at the stake as heretics. So they basically have to leave. They don't even have a home. They're just kind of penniless and wandering and trying to find a vampire, but not really having any luck. Dracula comes back. Dracula's jumping around Europe, and he moves his castle into the mountains outside of a small town of Wallachia. And he goes down into the town and he meets a girl named Lisa. And Lisa's like a local healer. She makes, medicine out of herbs and plants and soup and junk. And she's really nice and sweet. And Dracula meets her and they fall in love, and they have a baby together.
What?
And they're just really happy. Yeah, they're like a couple, and things are going really well. And the townspeople see them together. They don't really know who Dracula is. They just know him as kind of this mysterious man. And they don't really
That's Lisa's guy.
Yeah.
That's Lisa's guy.
That's Lisa's man. Yeah, but eventually one of the townsfolk who's curious about who this guy is, he follows Dracula back to his home, and he sees that it's a magic vampire's castle in the mountains, and they realize that Dracula isn't just some charming guy. He's a godless vampire in a magic teleporting castle, and they're Christians, so they hate that kind of thing. And they assume that by connection Lisa's probably a witch. She's probably in league with the devil. So while Dracula's away, they take Lisa, they accuse her of witchcraft, and they burn her at the stake. Have you guys seen the Castlevania animated series that's on Netflix?
I saw half of it. It was really cool, but that's where it picks up, right? So
yeah. If you want to watch the Netflix series, it picks up right here. This is the beginning of that story. So Dracula comes back into town. He's been away on business, I guess, and he sees that Lisa's missing, and he goes into the town to find her, and he just finds her charred, sad little raisin of a body tied to the stake, and he's heartbroken, right? He's just crushed.
How did he know it was her?
He could smell it. He probably could smell the blood and stuff, and hey, that's that B positive blood that I know.
Yeah.
Lisa's always positive.
That's what
she was.
Everybody loves her.
Yeah. Well,
except for when she's a
Well, they did. They did.
They did.
So that's really bad. Dracula at this point has had 2 wives. His first wife was killed by God by giving her diseases while Dracula was out fighting a war for God. And now the second one, men killed. So after his first wife died, he spent, the rest of his life, his eternal life, fighting a war with God. And now that men have killed the second love of his life, he vows to do the same thing with humanity. Now he's going to start a war with humanity. And in the same way that he's been taunting and defying God for hundreds of years, he's going to spend the next couple hundred years just destroying mankind for what they've done.
I like that he keeps with the relative lifespan of humanity, because we say love of your life, and so one of them was taken by God. That's 100 years of vengeance, and then another was taken by man, so that's 100 years of vengeance. There'll be another one after that, right?
Yeah,
every
probably.
100 years he gets one
stung by a
life.
scorpion, and he just
vows to fight scorpions for all eternity.
trips down some stairs. She just wants to fight some stairs.
Stubbed my toe.
He invents the escalator.
Yeah. Also, the cool thing about Castlevania, his castle, is that it's a beacon of godlessness. So anyone who's turned their back on God, any kind of just like bad person or monstrous creature, anything that isn't in the light of God is automatically drawn to it. So every like gross monstrous creature has just been like slowly moving towards Dracula's castle whenever it moves, and they just kind of collect there. It becomes like a home base of monsters, which gives Dracula a monster army. He's the lord of the castle, and he has all of these like gross godless figures that he can basically command to do whatever he wants. So now that he's at war with all of humanity for taking his second wife, he collects his army of monsters and he sends them out just to start like just ravaging the countryside and killing everybody in Wallachia. Which puts the church kind of in a pickle, right? The church doesn't have the tools to fight these monsters. The only people that can fight the monsters are the Belmonts. They're the only ones that have the weapons that can actually defeat, the creatures of the night. And those are the people that they kicked out of Wallachia. So the church tracks down the Belmont that's alive in this generation. It's a guy named Trevor Belmont. And they beg him to come back and save the day. So he comes back to Wallachia and he starts hunting Dracula. And for the first time, Dracula and a Belmont are going to have a face-off since Leon, maybe 400 years before that. And that sets up pretty much every other Castlevania game after that. Every Castlevania game is a different generation of Belmont that's trying to go out and fight Dracula. There's more. That's probably good. We could probably save the rest because the rest gets like kind of confusing. There's a bunch of more people that come in. So after that, there's the games that come next in the series introduces a bunch of different characters like Alucard. You guys know Alucard?
I know Alucard. I think we have to talk about Alucard.
What do you know about Alucard?
I know that his name backwards is Dracula.
Yeah. The kid that Dracula and Lisa had before Lisa was burned at the stake, that's Alucard.
Oh, cool.
And Alucard was there. He got there right when Lisa was dying. Like he got back into town as the flames were like just consuming Lisa. And that's his mom, right? So he was very upset. But he's half vampire, half man. So he has more humanity inside of him than Dracula does. So when he sees that, he's like crushed and heartbroken, but he's not like filled with the rage that Dracula is filled with. And Lisa's dying words to Alucard are, basically
swing away.
Was that a Signs reference?
Sorry.
How did you get that, Roger?
Have you seen Signs?
I have, like 10 years ago when it came out.
It's a very good movie. I think you guys have heard it's probably just a fan theory, but the theory that they're not aliens in Signs, but they're demons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
That makes the movie so much cooler.
Really cool.
Yeah.
But Lisa's dying words to Alucard are basically don't hate humanity. They don't know what they do. Like forgive them for this, and just understand that bad things happen, and you need to just live your life without hate.
Man, a lot of sacrificial, tortured souls in this, specifically female.
Yeah.
And a lot of double wives too. Everybody has a second wife.
Everybody's got a second wife.
They're a couple of wife hogs.
Yeah.
I'm over here. I haven't even had one.
They're
yet.
hogging all the wives, and I think that's not very fair. I agree.
Yeah.
Hey, Matea, that was a pretty cheeky thing to name your kid after the reverse of your alias. How pompous is that?
Yeah, we should do that.
I'm gonna name my son
Nevik.
Nevek.
My kid's name would be Rigor.
I'm Eoj.
Eoj.
I like Rigor a lot.
Rigor's not bad.
But it would be more like your alias, which is like Fart Master. But
so wait, you're saying when I am filled with incredible power, I'm gonna leave Roger behind and become Fart Master?
That's right. You killed all the other Fart Masters to become the best Fart Master.
Yeah.
I do want to make sure that I say at some point that I was mistaken earlier in the first Game Boy Advance game was not Simon Belmont. It was Soma, who is not a Belmont at all. I want to make sure that I put that in this podcast at some point.
I want to go on record saying that is incorrect and that it is Simon Belmont.
Yeah.
But I may be wrong.
I'd like to go on record and say that it's Stanley Belmont.
Stanley? Hey, can we talk for a second?
Yeah.
Stan Lee the creator of Marvel Comics,
Uh-huh.
his name is Stan Lee. Stan is short for Stanley.
His name is Stanley Lee.
Stanley Lee.
Do you think his middle name is Stan, so he's Stanley?
Maybe it's E. Stanley E. Lee. And he's the son of Robert E. Lee.
Yeah, maybe.
What a family.
I'm going to go on record and say that's actually 100% true.
Great. I think that's going to do it for today.
Thanks, Roger. You did a great job.
Yeah, I like that one.
Thanks. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. I love you.
Good night. I love you.
I have a hard time with that word.